All right, welcome back to The Behavior Code, the podcast that decodes the hidden language of human interaction. I'm Gabriel.
And I'm Maria, and we are going to start today with a pretty bold statement.
I'm ready. Go for it.
Okay, most people, and I mean like 99% of people, have absolutely no idea why they do what they do.
They think they do. They have these narratives, these stories they tell themselves. Oh, I'm just an anxious person, or I just have bad luck with dating.
Exactly, but those are just the symptoms. They're not the root cause. The thing is, there are these invisible scripts running in the background of our minds, and they dictate almost everything. But today, you will finally understand them.
They really do, and that's what today's episode is all about. We are giving you the cheat codes. So let's just throw a few questions out there for everyone listening.
Let's do it. Okay, question 1. Ever wonder why someone you're dating who seemed like completely obsessed with you at first suddenly just loses interest? Just goes completely cold?
Yeah, the classic hot to cold. We've all been there. Okay, question 2. Why is it that the less you seem to need someone's approval or respect, the more you actually get it?
That is such a paradox, isn't it? It's so frustrating when you're actively trying to get it. And okay, number 3, and this is a big one. Why do we so often get in our own way right when things are about to go really, really well?
Self-sabotage, the final boss of personal growth. See, these aren't just, philosophical questions. There are real, predictable psychological reasons behind all of them.
And understanding those reasons, understanding the why, it gives you the power to change the outcome. It's like seeing the Matrix for the first time.
That's the perfect analogy. So if you've ever been confused by people or even by yourself, this episode is your manual. We're starting with one of the most common things we see every single day: why people act different around you.
Okay, the social chameleon effect. I love this one. It's the idea that nobody is just one person. We're all a collection of different versions of ourselves.
And we deploy the right version for the situation. It's all about these social masks, right? You have your work mask, you have your with your best friends mask, the first date mask.
Totally. And it's not about being fake, or at least it doesn't have to be. It's a survival mechanism. It's about fitting into the social context to, not get kicked out of the tribe.
Right. But it goes deeper than just our conscious choices, because other people are subconsciously judging you like within seconds of meeting you, and they're adjusting their behavior based on that split-second judgment.
Okay, break that down. What are they judging?
They're judging your perceived status and your energy. It's a primal calculation. Is this person above me or below me in the social hierarchy? Are they a threat? Are they an ally? Is their energy anxious and frantic, or is it calm and grounded?
So they're reading your nonverbal cues, your posture, your tone of voice, how much space you take up.
Precisely. And based on that data, they change. If they perceive you as high status and confident, they'll become more agreeable, more respectful. They'll listen more intently. But if they perceive you as low status or nervous,
They might interrupt you or dismiss your ideas or just not really pay attention. And the crazy thing is, most of the time, they don't even know they're doing it.
they have no idea. It's a subconscious program. So when you notice someone's behavior shifting around you, the first question isn't what's wrong with them. It's what am I broadcasting? What mask am I wearing right now? And what signals is it sending?
That's such a powerful reframe. It takes you out of the victim mindset and puts you in the driver's seat. You can literally change how people treat you by changing the energy you bring into a room.
It's the ultimate social hack, which actually leads us perfectly into our next big why. Why people lose interest, because it's often tied to the same principles. Think about a job interview. You walk in, your posture is upright, you make solid eye contact, your handshake is firm. You are broadcasting confidence. The interviewer's mirror neurons will pick up on this, and they might start to feel uncertain about you too. They'll lean back, maybe glance at the clock. They'll treat you like a less serious candidate, not because of what you said, but because of the energy you've projected.
The simple answer is a chemical one: dopamine. The initial stages of attraction, or even just fascination with a new friend or a new hobby, are a huge dopamine rush. It's all about novelty, mystery, and the anticipation of reward.
So our brains are basically like, ooh, shiny new thing.
Totally. But what happens when the shiny new thing becomes familiar? The mystery's gone. You know their stories. You know what they're going to say. Predictability sets in.
And the dopamine drops off a cliff.
Right. The brain stops getting its fix from that source. This is why some people are, serial daters or always jumping to the next new project. They're addicted to the dopamine of the chase, not the reality of the catch.
But there's more to it than just brain chemistry, right? There's an emotional component. I think a big part of it is emotional unpredictability, or rather, the loss of it.
What do you mean by that?
Well, when you first meet someone, their emotional landscape is a mystery. Are they happy? Are they deep? Are they funny? But once you become too available, too predictable, if you're always the one texting first, always agreeable, always there, you remove all the tension.
You become psychologically boring.
Exactly. Attraction thrives on a little bit of space, a little bit of mystery. It needs room to breathe. When you suffocate it with constant availability, people's interest just wanes. It's the core mechanic of the entire attention economy. Why do you keep scrolling on social media? Because you don't know what the next video will be. It's unpredictable reward.
That's a fantastic point. Our brains are literally trained to seek out that next hit of novelty. If a person becomes as predictable as yesterday's newsfeed, our attention moves on. It's brutal, but it's how we're wired.
So, the takeaway isn't to play games, but to maintain your own life. Have your own interests, your own passions. Don't make anyone the center of your universe. That natural space is what keeps the spark alive.
Exactly. And speaking of maintaining things, let's talk about why people respect you or why they don't, because this is all about maintenance, specifically maintaining boundaries.
Yes, okay, boundaries. It's such a buzzword, but I feel like people don't really get what it means in practice.
Right. A boundary isn't a wall you build to keep people out. It's a line you draw that teaches people how to treat you. It's you calmly and confidently saying, this is okay with me and this is not. And people who lack boundaries, the people pleasers, they get walked all over. Why is that? Why doesn't being nice and agreeable earn you respect?
Because on a deep subconscious level, a lack of boundaries signals the lack of self-respect. If you don't value your own time, your own energy, your own needs, why should anyone else? You're basically broadcasting that you're a resource to be used, not a person to be respected.
Oof, that's harsh, but true. Respect isn't given, it's a byproduct of the standards you set for yourself.
It's a direct reflection, and it ties into another key psychological trigger: scarcity. We value what is scarce.
The limited edition sneaker effect.
Exactly. If your time, your attention, your yes is freely available to everyone all the time, it's worthless. But if you have strong boundaries, if you say no to things that don't align with your goals, your yes becomes incredibly valuable. Your time becomes a scarce resource.
And people start competing for it.
They do. They respect it more. It's a fundamental confidence signal. Saying no is one of the most powerful things you can do to command respect. It shows you have a choice, that you have your own priorities, and that your world doesn't revolve around accommodating others.
It's so true. When you start setting those boundaries, some people will get upset, but the right people will respect you more, and it's a great filter for your relationships.
It's the ultimate filter. But speaking of relationships, that respect can sometimes curdle into something else, can't it? Which brings us to our next point: why people secretly compete with you.
Ooh, okay, the frenemy phenomenon. When someone is smiling to your face, but you can just feel this weird undercurrent of competition.
And the root of this is almost always insecurity. Your success, whatever it is, a promotion, a new relationship, losing weight, it doesn't diminish them in any way, but to their insecure ego, it feels like it does.
Because of comparison culture. Social media has made this like a million times worse. We're constantly seeing everyone else's highlight reels, and it's so easy to feel like you're falling behind.
Exactly. So when someone close to them succeeds, it can trigger a painful thought. Why them and not me? And their ego, in order to protect itself from that feeling of inadequacy, has two options: get inspired or get competitive.
And it's so much easier to get competitive, or even to try and subtly sabotage you, like with those backhanded compliments.
The classic. Wow, I'm so proud of you for that promotion. I would never want a job with that much stress, but you're so brave for taking it on.
Ugh, exactly. It's a way for them to acknowledge your win while simultaneously putting it down to make themselves feel better. It's pure ego protection.
It is. And the important thing to realize is that it's not about you. It's 100% about their own internal struggles. Happy, secure people don't compete, they collaborate. They celebrate your wins as if they were their own.
So, when you feel that competitive energy from someone, it's really just a signal of their own insecurity, and you can choose not to engage. You don't have to play the game.
You absolutely don't. You can just let it be their thing. But sometimes people don't compete, they just disappear. Which brings us to our next point: why people disappear.
Ghosting, the plague of modern communication. A friend, a date, even a colleague. They're there, and then poof, nothing.
It's brutal. And I think the primary driver behind it is avoidance, specifically conflict avoidance. People are, by and large, terrified of difficult conversations.
They'd rather just disappear and hope the problem goes away than have to say, hey, I'm not feeling this anymore, or I'm upset about what happened.
Right, because that conversation might lead to conflict or tears or having to explain themselves. It feels awkward and uncomfortable. Ghosting, in their mind, is the path of least resistance. It's emotionally lazy.
Or it could be about emotional overwhelm. Sometimes people don't disappear because of you, but because they're dealing with their own stuff and they just don't have the capacity to maintain connections.
That's a really important distinction. The world is overwhelming. People get burned out. And when you're in that state, even replying to a text can feel like climbing a mountain. So they retreat into their cave to recharge.
And I think modern communication habits have made this easier because we're not tied to a landline phone anymore. It's so easy to just put your phone on silent, to mute a conversation. We've created a culture where disappearing is a technically simple option.
We have. And while it might be easier for the person doing the disappearing, it leaves the other person with this awful ambiguity and self-doubt. So again, it's usually not about you, it's about their inability to communicate or their own emotional state.
So, we've talked a lot about reactions to external things, but let's shift gears. Let's talk about the internal game, specifically why successful people think differently.
Yes, this is crucial. I think the number one difference is their time horizon. Most people are stuck in short-term thinking. They want instant gratification, the pizza tonight, the new shiny object now.
Right, they optimize for today.
Exactly. But truly successful people in any field, they play the long game. They're willing to sacrifice comfort today for a much better tomorrow. They'll eat the healthy meals, save the money, do the boring, repetitive work, because they have a clear vision of the future they're building.
It's the whole plant a tree metaphor. You don't get the shade today, but you're planning for a decade from now. And that requires a massive detachment from validation.
Tell me more about that.
Well, when you're playing the long game for a very long time, it looks like you're losing. Nobody is applauding you for saving 10% of your paycheck. Nobody is giving you an award for going to the gym when you're tired. There's no external validation.
You have to get your validation from your own progress, from the adherence to the plan.
Exactly. Your self-worth can't be tied to likes or compliments or other people's opinions. It has to come from an internal source, and that internal validation is what fuels the third key trait.
Discipline.
Discipline, not motivation. Motivation is fleeting, it's a feeling. Discipline is a system. It's doing what you said you would do long after the mood you set it in has left.
It's the ultimate form of self-love, really. It's saying, I care enough about my future self to do the hard thing now. But this is often where the biggest internal battle is fought, which brings us to, I think, the most important why of all: why you self-sabotage.
Okay, so you're on the path, you're doing the disciplined work, things are starting to happen, and then you blow it up. You procrastinate on the final step. You pick a fight with your supportive partner. You eat a whole pizza after a month of clean eating. Why?
The simple answer is fear, but it's not always a fear of failure. A lot of the time, it's a deep subconscious fear of success.
That sounds so weird. Why would anyone be afraid of success?
Because success means change. It means new responsibilities, new expectations, new visibility. What if I can't handle it? What if people treat me differently? What if I get what I want and I'm still not happy?
So it's a fear of the unknown?
Exactly. And it's also tied to our identity. If you spend your whole life seeing yourself as the struggling artist or the overweight one, your subconscious gets really uncomfortable when your reality starts to contradict that identity.
Whoa, so you subconsciously pull yourself back to who you're used to being?
You retreat to your subconscious comfort zone, even if that comfort zone is miserable. It's familiar misery. The brain prefers a familiar hell to a strange heaven. So it will create circumstances, the procrastination, the argument, the binge, to restore the familiar identity.
That is mind-blowing. So the real work isn't just changing your actions, it's upgrading your identity to match your goals. You have to start seeing yourself as the person who is already successful, already healthy, already in a great relationship.
That's the entire game right there, which brings us to the big power shift moment. If you've listened to all these whys, you're probably seeing patterns everywhere, in your friends, your family, and most uncomfortably, in yourself.
Right, it can feel a little overwhelming, like, oh great, I'm just a bundle of subconscious programming.
But here's the shift. Awareness is control. The moment you can see the program, you are no longer the program. The moment you can observe your own tendency to self-sabotage, or to people-please, or to chase novelty, you've created a space between you and the impulse.
And in that space is your power to choose.
That's it. You can see the urge to text that person for the 5th time and think, there's my need for validation driven by a dopamine drop. And then you can put the phone down. You can feel the urge to say yes to a request you don't have time for and think, that's my lack of boundaries. And then you can say no.
So the challenge we want to leave you with is this. For the next week, just be an observer, a detective of human behavior. Don't try to change anything. Just notice. Notice how people's energy shifts. Notice when someone loses interest. Notice when you feel the pull to self-sabotage.
Just label it. That's scarcity psychology at play. Oh, that's my comfort zone trying to pull me back. This act of observation, of awareness, is the single most powerful tool you have, because you cannot change what you do not see.
Wow, okay, I feel like we just downloaded a new operating system for the brain.
That's the goal of the behavior code.
All right, as we wrap up, if this episode opened your eyes, if it gave you even one aha moment, the biggest thank you could give us is to share it with one person who you think needs to hear it.
And of course, hit that subscribe or follow button so you don't miss our next episode, where we'll be decoding the psychology of first impressions.
Ooh, that's a good one. And finally, we want to hear from you. We've talked about so many different whys today. Jump into the comments or reviews.
And let us know, which why hit you the hardest? Was it self-sabotage? Was it why people lose interest? Be a little vulnerable. Share your story. We read every single one.
We really do. Thank you for spending your valuable time with us today, for going on this journey of discovery.
Until next time, stay curious and keep decoding.